Every crime leaves a trail. Every clue tells a story. And every truth demands to be uncovered.
Welcome to today's Explainer. Right off the bat, we're going to be diving into a deeply sobering and honestly heartbreaking event that recently unfolded down in South America. We're looking at a tragic school attack in Rio Branco, Brazil. But, to truly understand an event like this, we've got to look beyond just that single day. We really need to pull back and examine the broader, highly troubling context of school violence that's been escalating across the entire country. Our main goal today is just clarity. We're going to carefully walk through the established facts of the incident itself, look at the immediate fallout, and then zoom out to see the patterns in the data that are kind of defining this growing national crisis. 13. Just 13. When we talk about violence of this magnitude, our minds usually jump to a certain profile, right? But 13 is the age of the suspect involved in this deadly event, a 13-year-old student. Starting our explainer right here really grounds us in the shocking reality of this tragedy. We are dealing with an incredibly young perpetrator, and that's a fact that fundamentally shifts how we even process the events that follow. It immediately raises some really tough questions about youth mental health and, of course, access to weapons.
So let's break down exactly what happened. On Tuesday, May 5th, 2026, violence just erupted at the Instituto São José. This is a public school located in Rio Branco, the capital of Acre State in northern Brazil. And the human cost here was immediate, and it was devastating. 2 female staff members actually lost their lives right there at the scene. On top of that, another staff member and an 11-year-old girl were injured by the gunfire and had to be rushed straight to the hospital. The young student actually suffered a gunshot wound to her leg. The human cost here is just immense.
Now, how does something like this actually unfold inside the school corridors? Well, according to the timeline established by the Acre Military Police, the suspect fired several shots specifically in a hallway leading right up to the principal's office. But the absolutely crucial point here is understanding where that weapon came from. Police confirmed the gun used was actually legally owned by the teenager's legal guardian. Local media specified it was his stepfather. Following the attack, interestingly, the 13-year-old didn't try to flee. He just surrendered to the authorities. Subsequently, both the teenager and the stepfather were taken into custody and detained by the police. While all this is happening inside, sheer terror was taking over the student body. 6 meters. That's nearly 20 feet. That was the imposing height of the wall that separated the school grounds from the safety of an adjacent property. Just imagine the absolute desperation of the students trapped on the inside, staring up at this massive concrete barrier as literally their only potential path to survival. To really grasp how terrifying that moment was, we have to look at the eyewitness accounts. Eduardo Rodriguez Cavalcante, a 19-year-old receptionist working at the hotel right next door to the school, saw the panic firsthand. He heard the gunshots, the widespread screaming. He noted that despite that massive 6-meter wall, one person somehow managed to vault over it and find refuge right there in his hotel. But tragically, other people were just left stranded up on the school roof, desperately trying to figure out a way to escape the violence happening below them. It's just a harrowing picture of panic and feeling totally helpless. In the immediate aftermath, the response required rapid, really multifaceted action. Step 1 was medical and emotional triage. Images from local media showed women being evacuated on stretchers amid scenes of profound heartbreak, just crying and hugging outside the school gates. Right after, Acre Governor Melza Assis released a statement expressing deep solidarity with the victims' families and the affected education professionals. To give the community some time to grieve and to reassess security, classes were totally suspended for 3 days across all state schools, not just the one where it happened. And finally, perhaps most importantly for the long haul, psychological support teams were immediately mobilized to help the highly traumatized students and teachers. Okay, so we've zeroed in on this micro-level tragedy in Rio Branco. But as anyone seeking to truly understand a topic knows, we can't just stop at a single data point. We have to ask the critical macro-level question here. Is this an isolated incident? Was May 5th, 2026 just some awful anomaly? Or is it pointing to a broader sociocultural trend facing the entire country of Brazil? Well, the data gives us an answer, and honestly, it's pretty unsettling. Brazil has experienced a sharp, really alarming increase in violent attacks on educational institutions over recent years. The heartbreak in Rio Branco is not some solitary event. It's unfortunately part of a deeply concerning and escalating nationwide pattern. To really understand the risk landscape these schools are dealing with, we need to map this trend out. If we look back just over the past few years, it reveals how sharply these tragedies have accelerated. Back in 2022, a former student attacked 2 separate schools, leaving 4 dead and 12 wounded. Moving into 2023, the violence definitely intensified. In April, there was a horrific event at a daycare in Santa Catarina that left 4 young children dead. In October of that same year, a 17-year-old was fatally shot in a São Paulo school. Also in 2023, a teen was killed leaving a school in Minas Gerais. Then, jumping to September 2025, 2 teenagers were shot and killed at a school in Ceará. And now, the Rio Branco attack in May 2026. The frequency here is just undeniable.
And here's what makes securing these schools incredibly difficult for authorities: the utter unpredictability of the weapons. While firearms are a frequent and obviously deadly common denominator, they were used in Rio Branco, Ceará, São Paulo, and that 2022 Jewel School attack. Perpetrators aren't only using guns, they're utilizing melee weapons too, like the axe used in that devastating 2023 daycare attack or the knife used in Minas Gerais. This wide variance makes creating a single catch-all safety protocol almost impossibly complex. You aren't just screening for one specific type of threat anymore.
Behaviorally speaking, what's really throwing experts for a loop is the wildly diverse profiles and motives of these attackers. There is no single type that a school can easily flag. I mean, ages vary drastically, from a 13-year-old in our Rio Branco case all the way up to a 25-year-old man in the daycare attack. Their connections to the schools differ completely, too. Some are currently enrolled, some are holding grudges as former students, and some are literally complete outsiders. And finally, the level of premeditation is all over the map. While some attacks seem totally impulsive, police found that the 2022 attacker had actually been planning his assault for 2 years, and he even wore a swastika pinned to his vest. So that indicates deep, ideologically driven premeditation. So what does all this actually mean for the safety of Brazil's youth, and by extension, educational institutions globally? When the profiles are this varied, the weapons this diverse, and the attackers this young, the traditional models of school security are fundamentally challenged. The tragedy in Rio Branco is a stark, devastating reminder that the classroom, a place literally built for growth and learning, is increasingly becoming the front line of a very complex societal crisis. It leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. If the threats are evolving this rapidly, how on earth must our approach to protecting our students evolve to meet them? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep asking those tough questions, and never stop learning.